and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around, I'm doing the second half of correcting the Oscars, the Best Picture Oscars to be specific. I'm going to see what won, and if I disagree with them, I'm going to select the one among the nominees that I think should have won and explain why. Now, in the first half of this, I did up until 1968. And in this one, I'm going to do from 1969 onwards. But here's the twist. I'm going backwards from the most recent Oscar-winning movies, backwards to 1969. So we better get started. There's a lot to do. So let's take a look at 2023. It's in the era when there were 10 nominees for Best Picture. And as we all know, Oppenheimer won. But it's a pretty good year for movies. You've got Oppenheimer, you've got American Fiction, which I hear is very good, but I haven't seen it yet. Anatomy of a Fall, which I want to see as well. Barbie, which I have seen, and which I think is a fun movie, but I don't know whether it's a Best Picture Oscar worthy. The Holdovers, which I have a copy of, but I haven't seen yet. Killers of the Flower Moon, which is Scorsese's latest, and this guy is punching hard for an 80-year-old. Maestro, Bradley Cooper's movie about Lenny Bernstein. Past Lives, which I want to see as well, because for me it's got that little bit of an Ozu feel. Poor Things, which I love, and The Zone of Interest, which is quite controversial because the director of that one, Jonathan Glazer, got in trouble at the Oscars for making some controversial statements stating that it's bad to kill children in a certain conflict on the east coast of the Mediterranean. But moving right along, I can't really argue with Oppenheimer as the best picture on this one. I mean, The Holdovers and Poor Things and Killers of the Flower Moon and Zone of Interest all would have been great Oscar winners in any other year. But this year, crazy good range of movies. Maybe the writer's strikes gave them more time to work on the films. You can't really argue with Oppenheimer. It's unlike any other biopic I've seen, and it does what it does very, very well. Then we go to 2022, another 10 nominee year. Everything Everywhere All at Once won. The Daniels won for that one, and I'm kind of okay with that. The other nominees are kind of mixed. The remake of All Quiet on the Western Front, which is a reminder that we need. That war is a shithole. Avatar: The Way of Water, which is crazy because these movies make a ton of money but have less cultural impact than a remake of Caddyshack would. The Banshees of Inisherin, which is great. Elvis, Baz Luhrmann, The Fabelmans, which I have a copy of, I haven't seen. Tar, which, I mean, not my kind of film. Top Gun Maverick, didn't like the first one, haven't seen the second one. Triangle of Sadness, which I like for kind of weird reasons. I really like any movie where very, very wealthy people shit their guts out and puke all over a super yacht. And Women Talking, which is a really good film, but I don't know whether it's the kind of film that would ever win an Oscar. Really important subject, really well acted, really well directed, but it was never going to win the way that the voting process for the Oscars is set up. So I'll go with Everything Everywhere All at Once on that one. 2021, we've got an interesting field here. CODA 1. CODA is an acronym for Children of Deaf Adults, which I haven't seen, but I hear good things about. It's a second movie about deaf. Actually, it's the third movie about deaf people to ever be nominated for an Oscar. Johnny Belinda was nominated for an Oscar. You got Belfast, Kenny Branagh's semi-autobiographical movie. Don't Look Up, which I liked. Drive My Car, which I haven't seen. Dune, which I loved. King Richard with Will Smith. Remember Will Smith? Licorice Pizza. Nightmare Alley, the remake, Guillermo del Toro's one. The Power of the Dog, and Steven Spielberg redoing West Side Story for no good reason. Were I to pick another movie besides CODA on this one, I'd probably go with The Power of the Dog. I think it's a great film. I love Dune, and I've got a lot of respect for it, but Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog really worked for me. To finish off the 2020s, we've got 2020/2021 because COVID knocked away one of the Oscars. Nomadland won with Frances McDormand. The Father came in second. Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. The only other film I've seen on this one is Mank, and I love Gary Oldman. I think Gary Oldman does fantastic work. Nomadland, I think, though, for that really weird year that we had in 2021 and 2020 and 2021, I think that Nomadland was the important film that should have won. won. 2019 Parasite, of course it won. It deserved to win. There are a few other notable movies here. Ford versus Ferrari, one of those weird product biopics. The Irishman, which had a lot of problems with the de-aging process. Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi, okay film. Joker, top film was Joker. Kind of a Frankenstein of several other movies, really. Little Women, Marriage Story, which is a kind of Kramer versus Kramer remake. 1917, which showed how World War I was a meat mixer for human beings. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The second place on this one has to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I really enjoyed it. And I think it should have won had Parasite not been... Then we go to 2018. Green Book won, which is a very controversial film. I don't think it should have won. Black Panther was nominated. Black Klansman was nominated. Bohemian Rhapsody, a very poor biopic of Freddie Mercury. The Favourite, which is an interesting film, and I liked it. Yorgos Lanthimos did a great job with that one. Roma I loved. I think Roma was a fantastic film. Alfonso Cuarón's Roma. You should see that if you haven't. A Star is Born, the fourth remake that Bradley Cooper did with Lady Gaga. Good film, don't think it's right up there. And we had Vice, which was about Dick Cheney, so we'll ignore that. Were I to pick another movie that should have won rather than Green Book, I'd go with Black Panther. I love the Afrofuturism. I really love what it did. Beautifully made. Does have a little bit of a CGI boss battle at the end of it, but leaving that aside, I liked it. Or else Roma, I think. That would be my two picks. 2017, The Shape of Water won, which a lot of people have called the fish fucking movie, but I wouldn't. Call Me By Your Name, which is written by James Ivory, a gay romance with a bit of an age gap there. Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer. Haven't seen it. Darkest Hour, you're Gary Oldman playing Churchill. You know, Gary Oldman playing anything is always a favourite with me. Dunkirk. Hated the sound design on Dunkirk. I think it did what it did okay, but that sound design drove me nuts. Get Out. Again, a genre film. Genre films are really starting to get some recognition in the 21st century. Lady Bird, which I loved. Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird. Love that movie. Phantom Thread, Paul Thomas Anderson. The Post, which was a political thriller about the Washington Post, directed and produced by Steven Spielberg. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Martin McDonagh's movie. The Shape of Water I liked, but I don't know whether it's the best picture worthy. Were I to pick another one, I'm going to go out on a limb here and go with either Lady Bird or 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Both strong female-led movies, and I think that they needed to get a lot more oxygen than they did. 2016 Moonlight won, even though La La Land was announced by Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty, but we'll leave that aside. I can't argue with that. I think it's a fantastic film, even though there were other movies that were really good. Things like Arrival and Fences, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water was a great neo-noir western. Hidden Figures, nice piece of hidden history about the space program, which deserves some love. La La Land was a popular favourite. I kind of like La La Land. I still like La La Land, but I don't think it's best picture worthy. Lion and Manchester by the Sea. Yeah, there's not a movie that you can say is bad. Moonlight stood above the others. 2015 Spotlight won, really good movie about the expose on child abuse by Catholic priests. I liked that movie. I think it told a complex story really well. The Big Short was there as well. Bridge of Spies, another Spielberg movie. Brooklyn, Mad Max Fury Road, another genre film. The Martian, The Revenant and Room, which was the one where Brie Larson won the Oscar. I think Spotlight's an honest winner there, even though I would have liked Fury Road to have won, because I like Mad Max movies, and the idea of a Mad Max movie winning Best Picture is kind of attractive to me, but I think Spotlight is an honest winner there. It juggled a lot of different balls, and it juggled them well. 2014, you've got Birdman winning, Alejandro G. Iñárritu's movie with Michael Keaton. I love the meta-narrative in this one. I love the bravura filmmaking in it. I think it should have won. American Sniper was up there, Clint Eastwood's movie. Boyhood, The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Imitation Game, Selma, The Theory of Everything, and Whiplash. If you're going to make an argument for any other film, I think it'd be Whiplash. I think that too is a very bold movie, directed by Damien Chazelle. I definitely think Birdman, which has got enough weirdness for my taste in it, is a righteous winner there. 2013 is pretty easy to realise that 12 Years a Slave did win and should have won. There were a few other movies in there that are worth mentioning. American Hustle, which I kind of was ambivalent about. Captain Phillips, which is another one of those bravura Tom Hanks performances. Dallas Buyers Club. Gravity, which shouldn't be in there because it's a very bad science fiction movie with really poor physics in it. Her, I like. Her is a good science fiction movie. I should do it for Science Fiction Saturday. Nebraska. Philomena, which was about the abuse young pregnant women suffered in Ireland in the 20th century, and The Wolf of Wall Street, which, yeah, that one's a lot of fun to watch, but none of them stand up to 12 Years a Slave. I think you've got to give it to that one. 2012 Argo one, really interesting film. I think it's a good, solid piece of work by Ben Affleck as a filmmaker. Amour, Michael Haneke's movie with Jean-Louis Trintignant, Emmanuel Riva, and Isabelle Huppert. Yeah, it's a heartbreaker, that one, but I don't know that it's best picture worthy. Beasts of the Southern Wild, which is a fantasy film, of course, I think it's a little bit too out there for mainstream audiences. Django Unchained, Life of Pi, Lincoln, which is Spielberg's Lincoln biopic, Les Miserables, which shouldn't have been there either. Silver Linings Playbook, a romantic comedy drama with David O. Russell, movie with Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence, and Zero Dark 30, Catherine Bigelow's Zero Dark 30. If I were to pick one, I'd have to go with Django Unchained. I like the way it does a meta alternate universe historical narrative, and it's peak Tarantino in the 21st century, where he is not limiting himself to reality and is telling good stories regardless of whether they're realistic or historically accurate or not. And I like that. He also did it with Inglourious Basterds a couple of years before. 2011, interesting year. The Artist won a solid movie, won the Best Picture Oscar with Jean Dujardin and Berenice Bejo. I like it, but I haven't rewatched it in a decade. The Descendants, an interesting, smaller movie by Alexander Payne, starring George Clooney. I liked it, but I don't think it's the best of the year. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which is a good description of a lot of people I've sat near in a cinema. I don't think it's Oscar worthy at all. The Help, which is a good, honest period drama about the black people who worked in the White House throughout the 20th century. Good, solid movie, great acting. Hugo, the wonderful kind of sort of fantasy film by Martin Scorsese. Love this movie. Midnight in Paris, time travel movie directed by Woody Allen. I remember liking it at the time, but for me, Woody Allen's on the nose, so I'm not going with that. Moneyball, The Tree of Life, Terrence Malick's film, and War Horse, which is another one of those World War I dramas that play at the heartstrings but don't tell us anything new or give us anything new about that particular conflict. I'm going to go with Hugo. I think Scorsese's Hugo is a love letter to the creation of cinema, and it does what it does beautifully. It uses computer-generated effects wonderfully. It's slightly fantastical, but it is heartwarming. I've got it on Blu-ray, and I really should rewatch it soon. I remember loving it, and of course, Paris in La Belle Epoque, just wonderful stuff. 2010, The King's Speech won because everybody loves a story about a royal who stutters. I think Geoffrey Rush is good in it, Colin Firth's good in it, but there's a little bit of that enabling privilege that I'm not particularly comfortable with. We've got Black Swan was also there, Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan, which is a real head trip of a movie. The Fighter, David O. Russell's movie with Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale. Not keen on boxing movies. The Kids Are All Right, comedy drama about a same-sex couple raising children. I'm in favour of that. I'm in favour of that getting more visibility. You can't be what you can't see. 127 Hours, The Social Network, Toy Story 3, the remake of True Grit, which is a good film. Winter's Bone, which is a really dark drama, and it's a movie that brought Jennifer Lawrence to prominence. If I was going to pick one, also Inception. I forgot Inception, but Inception's in there as well. Christopher Nolan's Inception. I'm going to play my science fiction fan card and say Inception on that one. I like it a lot more than I like The King's Speech. It did eye-poppingly good things. And even though there are a number of other worthy movies in there, I really like Inception. 2009, The Hurt Locker one, Catherine Bigelow also won for Best Director. It's a good movie. It's a solid movie and it's tense as hell. And it shows us a part of American overseas adventures that we didn't normally see. Avatar was also nominated. Dances with Wolves with Smurfs. The Blind Side, which is a kind of supposedly true story but wasn't really, with Sandra Bullock in it. White Savior narrative. District 9, Neil Blomkamp's movie, which rephrases apartheid in a science fictional context. And Education, which I don't know much about. I know it's based on a screenplay by Nick Hornby. Inglourious Bastards, of course. Tarantino rewriting World War II for the better. Precious, based on the novel Pushed by Sapphire, which is a clumsy title, but still a good drama film. A Serious Man, you've got Joel and Ethan Coen, Michael Stuhlbarg. Good film. It's a black comedy. And it's a good black comedy by the Coen brothers. We've got Up, animated feature. A lot of fun. The best bits at the front end of that film, that little montage of the old man growing old with his wife and her dying. That's chef's kiss, good dramatic narrative. And Up in the Air, the story about George Clooney's character Ryan Bingham basically going from city to city, sacking tons of people for large corporations. I think it's an important story to tell, and it shows the psychopathic nature of large corporations well. But I think The Hurt Locker is an honest choice there. My second favourite, of course, would be Inglourious Bastards, because I just love it. 2008, let's see what we've got for 2008. Slumdog Millionaire won. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button was nominated. Frost Nixon, Milk, and The Reader, Anthony Minghella movie. Didn't particularly like Slumdog Millionaire. I think even though it was based on an Indian novel, it's still white people telling stories of other cultures, and I don't know that it always does that well. Were I to pick one, I think I would go with Milk. I think that Sean Penn is fantastic in it. Harvey Milk's story is really good. It's about toxic homophobia, people in power not liking somebody from the edges coming into power, and I think there's a lot to be said for toxic politics in that movie as well, and it tells the story really well. So I would go with Milk for 2008. 2007, No Country for Old Men won, directed by the Coens from Cormac McCarthy's novel. I like this movie a lot. I think it's beautifully paced. Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin. I just love what the movie does and the way it tells the story and the way it uses location to strengthen the narrative. The kind of Central Texas locations work really well, and Anton Chigurh is a really great creation for Javier Bardem. He's one of those psychopathic characters that's essentially unknowable and unpredictable and very, very creepy. You've also got Atonement, a romantic war film, and based on a novel by Ian McEwan. Saoirse Ronan's in there, James McAvoy, Keira Knightley. Didn't like it that much. Juno, coming-of-age comedy drama, written by Diablo Cody. Elliot Page is in it. Michael Cera. Yeah, that's nice and it's a feel-good, but Michael Clayton, good Clooney acting role. I think Clooney was fantastic in it, but still, it's a legal drama, and we've seen a lot of those. And There Will Be Blood. Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. I would say it's a toss-up between No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood. I think both of them will be honourable winners for the best picture, but No Country for Old Men got it. 2006, Scorsese's remake of the Hong Kong movie from 2002, Infernal Affairs. I always go to the original version, but this is still a good film. And it's one of those rare Mark Wahlberg movies that's watchable. Babel, which tells very complex stories across the world, and it's a hard watch, but I think it's still a great film. Letters from Iwo Jima, a Japanese language American war film directed by Clint Eastwood. It's one of two movies that Eastwood did, showing the two different sides of the Battle of Iwo Jima. I think it's a good film, but I don't know that it necessarily works as a best picture. Little Miss Sunshine, which is a great kind of road movie, a great family road movie, terrific ensemble cast, and it's just a really interesting watch. The Queen, which of course is promotional material for English Inherited Privilege, didn't like it much. I'm not that keen on humanising the inhuman. With that one, I'll go with The Departed. I think it's a good, solid movie, and it deserved to win. 2005, Crash won. Don't think it should have. Brokeback Mountain, Capote, Good Night and Good Luck, and Munich. Strong year. I don't think Crash should have won. I didn't like it that much. If I was going to pick a winner, I'd pick one of two. I'd pick Brokeback Mountain because of the romantic aspect of it. Even though it did have straight actors playing gay, I think it's emotionally honest, sad and tragic. Terrific ensemble acting. The stories of the marginalised need to be told, and this one tells it incredibly well. Capote is a lot of fun. Philip Seymour Hoffman, his death is a loss to us all. Fantastic actor. Good Night and Good Luck I like a lot, about bringing down McCarthyism. I think that's an important film, and it's an important thing to remember that the journalism, if applied correctly and honestly and morally, can bring down tyrants. I think that's the message of that movie, and it's important for that reason. And Munich, which was, of course, was about the assassins attacking the Israeli Olympic team, was more about the Mossad assassinations after that. Very recent history may let us reframe that movie in a different way. I'd go with Brokeback Mountain for 2005. I think that one is the one that stands above the rest. 2004, $1 Million Baby, The Aviator, Finding Neverland, Ray, and Sideways. $1 Million Baby, there's only a few boxing movies I like. That damage, that the idea of brain damage as entertainment, which essentially boxing is not one that sits comfortably with me. The Aviator, of course, about Howard Hughes. Got a copy of it, haven't seen it yet. I do want to see it because some movies about Hollywood are always in my wheelhouse. And of course, Scorsese is one of the few Scorsese movies I have yet to see. Finding Neverland, it's a Johnny Depp movie. Don't like Johnny Depp. Ray, about Ray Charles. Good honest biopic. But again, it's a biopic. And Sideways, Alexander Payne's road movie. I like it so much. It's just so much fun. And the ensemble works really well. Paul Giamatti and Thomas Hayden Church. Just a lot of fun, and it's rewatchable as well. I will have to go with Sideways. I think that something with a bit of comedy in it, winning Best Picture, is something we should get back to wherever possible, because a lot of serious movies are winning Oscars, and yes, they're great films, but I think we should also remember that comedy is an important part of cinema. 2003, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King won. Lost in Translation, which is kind of slightly creepy, even though it's got some beautiful Tokyo locations. Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World, Mystic River, and Seabiscuit, a biopic about a horse. We've seen a few of them. My Friend Flicker, Phar Lap, Francis the Talking Mule, Mr. Red. Lord of the Rings, yes, big budget, epic action film. Got Water Workshop on the map, got Peter Jackson, the big name. I'll have to go with Master and Commander, directed by Peter Weir. Based on a series of novels, I think that Rusty Crowe is really good in it, and it feels kind of lived in and realistic. The period setting is perfect in this one, and it's a good, honest adventure film set during the Napoleonic Wars. I think Master and Commander harks back to an earlier age of swashbuckling sea adventures in some ways, and I think it should have won. 2002, Chicago won. Gangs of New York, The Hours, Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, and The Pianist. Chicago is a great musical, but it's not a great musical movie. The stage musical is great, but getting actresses who can't particularly sing into a musical is never a good idea. Get singers. Get people who can act and sing. Don't just pick one because they got name value. Good story, great fun, but no. Gangs of New York isn't Scorsese's best, but it's Scorsese trying to do something different. Daniel Day-Lewis is great in it. Leo DiCaprio is great in it. Cameron Diaz less so. But it shows the history of New York in a totally different way, and I like it for that. The Hours, which is now forgotten. I mean, I've seen it, but I don't remember too much about it. Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Everybody loved Hobbits back in the day. And The Pianist, Adrian Brody won Best Actor for this one. But it's a Roman Polanski film, and I've got no time for anybody who will act or be in a movie directed by somebody who assaulted a teenager in the way that Polanski did. Probably go with Gangs of New York on that one. Even though it's not a perfect film, I think it's better than the others. 2001, we were all recovering from Y2K. A Beautiful Mind, Gosford Park, which is a really interesting Robert Altman movie. One of the most fun movies of Robert Altman's later career. In the Bedroom, which was Sissy Spacek, Tom Wilkinson, Nick Stahl. Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. And Baz Luhrmann's version of Moulin Rouge, which is the third best movie called Moulin Rouge. I like Gosford Park. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's got a fantastic ensemble cast. And even though A Beautiful Mind about John Nash, which doesn't tell the honest story about John Nash, even though Rusty Crowe is good in it, I don't think it's an honest film. Gosford Park I'll go with in 2001. That's my choice. 2000, you got Gladiator, you got Chocolat, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Erin Brockovich, which tells a really important story and a true story, and Traffic, about the illegal drug trade. It's a good Soderbergh movie, fantastic ensemble cast. Gladiator I kind of like, even though I'm not particularly a fan of Ridley Scott as a director. I'm going to go Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I think a wuxia movie deserves an Oscar, and if you're going to go with it, This is it. Ang Lee, fantastic Taiwanese director. You got Chow Yun-fat, Michelle Yeoh, Zhang Ji, Chung Chen. Just a beautiful movie, and it tells a beautiful wuxia story. It doesn't have Caucasian people inserted into the narrative, which is a big virtue. I'll go Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon every day.